Welcome to all our public safety brothers and sisters out there. I'm going to give you a little warning tonight for the drone pilot brief. We're going to get on a subject that is near and dear to my heart and actually gets me pretty fired up. So if I get a little spooled up, you'll have to forgive me, but this is something that I've watched and we've witnessed for so long that it really kind of gets under my skin. So with that, let's go ahead and proceed on, and we will discuss some of those things. I'm sure you remember back in the day when it was when we discussed drones for public safety. It was going to be trouble in River City. You can't let them have drones. It's like Big Brother and all of that. It's just going to be something really bad. So from there, we've gone to, hey, this thing is great. It'll do everything. It'll fly here. It'll get this. It'll do that. It'll make your job so much safer, right? Right? Am I right? We've seen that, and it's happened a lot. So you got to start asking the questions. Hey, can you go to the Charlie side of the building? What happens if you go, your GPS goes out, and can you fly for an hour? And hey, can you fly under that carport? And we've got guys out there, the slick guys that are the salesperson. They want the contract, and they're saying, oh yeah, sure, great, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, you can do this, no problem. And then when you sign on the dotted line and you finally get your bird, the engineer pops up with a reality check and says, no, you can't do that. And why the heck would you want to fly under a carport anyway? Why would you want to fly on the other side of the building? You'll lose line of sight. Well, that's because it's in our job. That's what we do. And the engineers and the guys that design these drones are just now starting to get on board with what we do for a living. So along with that, the training that we provide is something that it should be considered a standard. A good training program is going to do so much for you in so many different ways that you're going to have to be able to answer to the public that is paying attention. And if you don't believe they're paying attention, go look for the open records requests that have been filed so far. And they're becoming more and more frequent on the use of unmanned aircraft for public safety. And this is something that we want to bring to your attention because it's happening out there. You need to be prepared for it. And you need to be able to answer to your constituents as to why that drone did what it did and why you were using it that way. And we all know that we can go out and we can get our Part 107, right? It was great. The FAA gave it to us. We finally got it passed. And that gets you legal to fly commercially. But is that all a first responder needs? Do we need to do anything else? You bet we need to do something else. And this is where we start getting into the snake oil trainings, the snake oil sales part of it and the training end of it, because you got people out there that are saying they're going to train public safety, and they're going to do it in a day, or they're going to do it in a 2-day course, or even a 1-week course. Now, I'm going to ask you guys out there, and I want you to think about this. How long did it take for you to get comfortable in your position doing the job that you do? It doesn't make any difference whether you're a firefighter or a patrol officer or an emergency management officer. How long did it take for you to get really comfortable with it? You gotta have real training. Our remote pilot training is set up just like an aviation program. If you were to go get your private pilot's license, you would take X number of hours of classroom, and while you were doing the classroom, you would be also doing flying at the same time to reinforce what you were learning. That's the way it should be, right? And as we move into other areas of our jobs and the things that we're doing, we have to be aware that we have to operate under SOPs and SOGs, right? So that kind of changes the way we actually do our business. A little bit different than the way an aviation program would put theirs together. But for a public safety agency, you got to build on a solid foundation. And that's what we're trying to get you guys to. Now, one of the things that has been a real mystery to us is why there hasn't been any proficiency training talked about in any of the qualifications. Now, we feel, and this is us, that as professional public safety agencies, we should ask for a proficiency standard. We talked a little bit about what ALEA has put out, but we're talking about actually hands-on training. How do you handle the emergencies? We're not talking about button pushing, which there are plenty of them out there that all you have to do is push the button and they'll fly over to point B and take a picture or do whatever it needs to do and fly back. But what happens if in the middle of going from point A to point B, something pops up, like a helicopter, or the wind comes up, or something changes? How do you respond to that? So this is what we're talking about, proficiency testing. And not, everybody is putting these programs out there, and the latest and greatest is, the Shark Tank winner has got the MBAs that are pushing the whole training deal, and they can get you trained. Really? How? What are they basing it on? What is their experience that they're drawing from to build the program? If you don't build that program from experience, did you read a book? Are you watching YouTube? So it's a theory, right? You got to get off of the theory and you got to get into the real practical experience. That beats theory every day. And that's what we're trying to do. And we've seen so many agencies, and this is what really is upsetting, because you've seen guys go out there and they've got good intentions and they go out and they purchase equipment. And the equipment will only do 5% or 10% of what they want it to do. Or even worse, it doesn't do anything of what they wanted to do because they were sold a bill of goods. And let me tell you, that gets under my skin, because again, we've got people who don't know what they don't know. Now, granted, there are well-intentioned salespeople out there. I'm not trying to diss the salespeople out there, so don't send those letters in, guys. I get it. We don't want you to sell something that we can't use. So it's a part of your education as well. You need to learn what we're doing. But on the agency side of it, there are so many mistakes that we've seen made, trying to sneak a program out, trying to get something out there before your constituents know about it. Trying to build your program just around one airframe, because we all know that different tool, different job, you got to have the right tool for the right job. And there are more and more people. Look at the numbers out there. We've got law enforcement officers and fire departments out there that are trying to get these tools into their lineup because they are such good tools. And that's the important thing. We get it. We totally get it. But let's do this the right way. Look on the right-hand side of the screen there. There's the right way. We've listed them for you. How to set this thing up so that it doesn't get you in trouble and that you don't get taken to the cleaners by a slick salesman. So let's talk about what questions should you ask. Look at where we're covering a wide range of public safety. So the first thing that you need to ask the salesperson or the trainer who is giving your training is, what is your experience base? What has your real life situations been? Have you lived through this stuff? How many missions have you flown? Have you flown in a fire? Do you know what fireborne weather can do to an unmanned aircraft? Have you experienced it? And not to diss our military drone guys, that when they come in, they also try to teach public safety, but the military experience is so specialized, and there is not a complete overarching sort of, unless you're a commander of a drone squadron, which I don't see too many of those guys out there in the field training yet, you're not going to have that full overall view of how to get that program going and get it going safely. So think about these questions. Don't think about the buzzers and whistles and bells that are attached to this thing, because they do. They've got some great stuff with the FLIRs and the cameras and the sniffers and the sensors. Love them, love them. They're great. But you got to be able to use the thing. And to avoid that open records request that asks, hey, how come you didn't find that child? Or how come you didn't respond correctly? This is the questions that you need to ask. So think about that. We're going to try to keep prompting you guys and try to give you guys the knowledge that you need to be able to ask these questions. And I am going to try to keep from getting so spooled up over this, because I have seen so many agencies get, quite frankly, fleeced. And it's our tax dollars, my tax dollars, your tax dollars that are being taken by unscrupulous people like this gentleman here by selling agencies a bill of goods, or maybe not telling completely the truth, which has always been the issue with me, and not understanding what we do. Sure, you can get a copter to fly for 30 minutes, but oh, did you want a camera on that as well? Well then, if that's the case, you're going to have to drop that time down. And it's not so much that it's a lie, if you will, but it's not the total truth either. So we want you to think about some of the deeper questions. Think about your job. Think about how you would use that unmanned aircraft, and ask those questions when that representative comes in and says they have the latest and greatest drone. It will do everything that you want it to do. The first thing you should ask is, really? So anyway, this is just a little brief, something to get you thinking. I did pretty well. I didn't raise my voice too bad. I didn't get too red in the face. So until next week, we're going to say be safe, have safe responses, and fair winds.